I'll be covering kind of the basics on BIM 360 design on a high end or high level admin and project admin presentation. So before I get into all of the specifics, I'll just go through a little introduction for myself here. And this will probably take a majority of the next hour or so, and then we will have the Q&A after that. So depending on how long-winded I am, it might carry over a little bit over an hour. It's hard to say. I took some of our different courses and combined them into this presentation. So I haven't done this specific presentation yet, but before I get into the BIM 360 stuff, just an intro to IMAGINiT. So we are industry leader with technology solutions. We are a consulting service to help with, oh, that's nice, optimization of technology like Revit, 3ds Max, AutoCAD, Navisworks, and we support productivity, training, and ongoing support. So it's weird that the text on this one, on my screen, it looked okay until I went into presenter. So apologize for that. But we are a RAND worldwide company. So we are, the division that I belong to is IMAGINiT Technologies. IMAGINIT's a platinum partner with Autodesk. So we have the highest level of partnership with Autodesk in supplying and providing training and professional services to all things related to Autodesk software. Our other divisions, our RAND 3D division supports Dassault software and PTC training, and our Ascent division is another sister company of ours that creates the coursework that some of you may have used in learning different software like Revit, AutoCAD, 3ds Max, Inventor. But Ascent is our coursework division and authorize official training guides for Autodesk software included in that division. This is just a snapshot of all of our locations around North America. So you can see we do have a pretty good blanket spread across North America for support, primarily in the US and Canada. And yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of IMAGINiT. For me personally, my name is Vince Danielle. My background is in architecture. Over the last decade with IMAGINiT, I've worked with hundreds of different AEC firms, implemented software and training, worked on creating unique solutions. One of my passions in the technology and things that I support is design and visualization. So I kind of take care of a lot of the training requirements for 3ds Max and some of our virtual reality, augmented reality pipelines, but also support anything BIM related. So this webinar for BIM 360 and just a little bit of personal stuff. My wife and I just had our first baby back in March 5th. So we've been dealing with the COVID stuff. Hasn't really affected us too much because we kind of planned on being at home for a little while, but now we're starting to miss some of the support, I guess, that you would get from family and friends and not being able to have people over. So dealing with all the challenges, I'm sure all of you are dealing with different challenges with all this COVID stuff. So yeah, hopefully the remote working session and getting you some information about BIM 360 design and how to set up the admin and project admin with BIM 360 can get you up and running, working remotely with Revit and BIM 360 design. And hopefully we aren't stuck in the state for a long time, but even after everything kind of gets back to normal, there are huge benefits from working with the BIM 360 platforms. And I'll go through those in a few of these slides. So my idea for the presentation here is I'm going to give an overview of the entire BIM 360 environment. Shouldn't take too long to go through that. And then I'll get into kind of a demonstration mode of how to set up the admin accounts, things that you can look out for, not only from a project admin level, but also in an account admin level, how to activate some of the, or authorize some of the accounts to get things up and running in your BIM 360 hub, and how it all ties together. I know this is one of the topics that if you haven't had any experience with BIM 360, it gets really confusing. There's a lot of terms that kind of overlap, and just the way that the whole environment is set up. Autodesk does their normal good job of adding a lot of different modules or services and packages them all into one, and has different names, and the names are always changing. So just keeping track of everything. Hopefully this will help you to smooth all of that out, and to make this remote working and work sharing environment through BIM 360 make a lot more sense and a lot easier. So yeah, we'll go through the overview. We'll go through how to set up a BIM 360 project using BIM 360 docs and design. And then I'll go through some permission stuff, how to invite staff and outside consultants to projects, configure different permissions to folders and different roles within that BIM 360 hub environment. And then just in general, the workflows in BIM 360 design, how to open, download, manage documents, both from Revit and just from a document management standpoint, okay? So first off here with this introduction to the BIM 360 platform or BIM 360 environment, a few years ago, Autodesk introduced some of these different cloud supported platforms like collaboration for Revit. And initially when these different platforms came out, they kind of existed on their own islands or in their own silos. The idea behind BIM 360 is that it integrates all of these different tools and functionality together, and sort of the behind the scenes, the architecture that everything is built on top of is Autodesk Forge. So Autodesk Forge is used to streamline all of these different products together into one comprehensive sort of management tool online through the cloud. So when we are working with design, we can use those designs, directly tie them into pre-construction efforts like estimation, and then carry through to field execution. So what used to be called BIM 360 Field is now BIM 360 Build, and I'll talk about some of that. But the whole idea is that we're integrating this platform, and the main idea behind that is that with the integration and the automation of these workflows, we're moving away from those standalone silos, and we're supporting the collaboration between all of the different disciplines and industries that you may work with on a project. And the ultimate goal is to eliminate data loss that would happen between, the exchange of information between the architect and your engineers, your consultants, and your contractors, as well as the facility management side, which is kind of the handover and operations portion of that graphic. Like I mentioned, BIM 360 is built on top of Forge. That is Autodesk's development platform. It has an API that allows, sort of an open API that allows integration of not only these programs that Autodesk offers, but we can integrate some of our own custom solutions and third-party applications to be built on top of Forge. So there's a lot of companies that are doing some really, really cool stuff with integration into Forge and creating project work pages and all different types of data collection and gathering on top of that open API that Forge allows. So you can really leverage a lot of your Autodesk data into a custom approach. Maybe it's for your company in general, or it could be per project. So all of the BIM 360 tools are built on top of that open source API. Okay. Yeah, all of this, I think I just mentioned all this, avoid common projects between project teams. So again, the big idea here between BIM 360 and that environment is to streamline our documentation make sure we're eliminating data loss. And in these next few slides, we'll see kind of a snapshot of the different BIM 360 services and modules and how they tie together. And primarily for architecture, that's what I'm going to focus on for this presentation. But it's good to talk about how you share the data between your contractors and just understand the whole broad picture of everything. Okay. So the evolution of this whole idea behind collaboration with BIM 360 and these cloud offerings, the classic products at the top of this slide for architecture and for using Revit in general, we used to call that Collaboration for Revit or C4R. Well, it's now called BIM 360 Design, and it is integrated in a much better way to this entire BIM 360 environment ecosystem. The classic approach to BIM 360 Glue, that one is still called BIM 360 Glue, so no change there. But that's kind of like your Navisworks sort of cloud model coordination platform. And then we have BIM 360 Field, which is now called BIM 360 Build, which does a lot of field management, RFI requests, project management, and also the Insight tool, which I don't know that I would tie Insight to directly just Build, but Insight does a lot of different things. It's kind of like a product support or a project support page where we can get analytics and different things. So those are the three main parts of the whole BIM 360 environment. Within those different parts, we do have different modules that we can activate, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But there is one thing that sort of ties all of those different objects together, and that is the BIM 360 docs. And BIM 360 docs is the document management portion of BIM 360. And it's supported through all of these different services. So it doesn't matter if you're just using a BIM 360 Design or if you're just using BIM 360 Glue, you have access to BIM 360 Docs. Or if you're not using any of them, you can also purchase BIM 360 Docs as just its own standalone sort of service. So for people or folks that don't need to get into models, that don't need to do the collaboration, maybe they're an executive or high-level person at the company, and they just want to be able to open and manage files or to view files, then you can buy licenses of just docs and allow them that kind of read-only access or certain permissions, as we'll see when we go through the folder structure, the permissions part of the presentation. But the great thing about this is it's all managed through the web interface, and we can assign people account administration, so to manage all of these different facets of BIM 360. And then at a project level, we can assign project admin. So instead of having access to maybe your whole corporate account structure, they're just focused on individual projects. Just another snapshot here of how these different BIM 360 offerings span across the life cycle of a building. Docs being that same congruent offering that's supported throughout the entire process. Design would be more of the Revit side, where we're actually doing the modeling work, we're creating our documentation, we're sharing that out to contractors. Glue kind of ties that first pre-construction into our construction execution, and then with BIM and Field, we carry that from construction over to handover. One of the objects I did not include in that previous slide is BIM 360 Ops, which is more on the facility management side of things. It still doesn't quite tie into all of this the same way that Glue and Field tie into design, but they're making strides and they're starting to tie in Ops more and more into this whole environment. Okay. One of the huge benefits of BIM 360 and having all of this available in the cloud is that no matter where you're at, you have access to your files and to the data that you need. You don't have to be locked down to your office. You can be mobile. You can have iPads or tablets out on the site, As long as you have an internet connection, you can view information, markups, all of the files and the updates to document sets. So it's a very mobile platform, and it ties this whole life cycle of the building together and just makes it more accessible. And it gives us the permissions and access to control parts of the projects that we want to view and maybe limit other people in certain areas. So sort of as a very high level, think of it as really a project management tool, but it ties into all of our sort of authoring software as well. Okay, just bump through these. Meant to skip this slide. So yeah, in summary for that environment, because docs will be a big part of this presentation today, the document management module, which I said can be purchased as a standalone as BIM 360 docs. It is included in the rest of the family of BIM 360 products. So if you happen to purchase a license of BIM 360 design, which is a larger cost than just docs, so subscription to BIM 360 design obviously has its own cost and it's higher, but you automatically get access to BIM 360 docs when you buy those different services or modules. But it is the foundation. It serves as the foundation between all of the different services, modules in BIM 360. So when we kick off any projects, we need to start in docs. And that's where I'm going to start with the kind of demonstration and show you what goes into building the projects in docs to start with, and then how do we work with that using the design platform. So it's better to see this stuff. All right. One of the good links, and I can share this out maybe during our Q&A. There's a link here for account access and how your account admins will kind of activate the licensing or the hub through BIM 360. I forgot to pull a slide from my other presentation. I'll find it after, but basically there are 3 different levels. If you already have docs set up, then accessing or activating your account is done one way. If you've already got some design activated and you're trying to pull in outside consultants into the project, it's done a different way. And then the third way is if you maybe already have subscription activated and you're adding different modules on, a lot of times the reseller, which would be like us, IMAGINiT, you'd have to reach out to your account manager, and then they would go through subscription portal to activate your accounts, and then your administrator would get the access through your subscription portal to then assign different individuals to docs or allocate those different licenses out. All right. So a few things I'm going to go through first here with the account admin. We can control these different things through account administration. So we can set up company profiles, business units. If you're a company like us, IMAGINiT, maybe the large company would be Rand Worldwide, and we would have different business units that fall under that, like IMAGINiT, Rand 3D, and Ascent. So you can set those up through account admin and assign them to different projects. Custom integrations with third-party application. You can track admin activities, set up different membership or user roles within your account, manage your members, so add, remove, both internally and externally from your company. You can add additional companies that you might be collaborating with on different projects through the admin portal, manage your projects, and then look at different account analytics, which basically give you a snapshot of how your licenses are being utilized or how many people are using the licenses that you have available, which I'll show you in the demonstration here. Okay. So let me get out of my PowerPoint and get into the good stuff here. So I'm going to start with a very high level, the admin, the account access. So once you do have your account assigned, and this is managed through, here's that link from that one slide that I'll share out to the group so you can get to this. But once you do have services assigned to your Autodesk account, your admin can then, and this is showing classic user management, this is updated, so it might look a little bit different now, but really assigning it out is done the same way. Through this page, you can assign different people in your company to have access to, let's say, BIM 360 design or docs, and then they would have access through your hub or in your hub to access those different modules and services. So this is done through sort of the account admin, and maybe not all of you are involved with that, but if you need any help with anything like this, you can reach out to us at IMAGINiT, and we can help you out with activating license. But this has to be done. We have to activate the licenses or the account before you actually have access to your BIM 360 hub. So so hopefully everyone already has an Autodesk license, if you, or not license, Autodesk user ID. If you don't, you can create an account. I already have one. So in order to assign or activate accounts, you have to have a user. So I have mine here. Hopefully I don't get to sign in. Good. So once I'm signed in here, just a few things I'll point out to this page, and I'll try to go through this stuff as fast as possible. We have a couple of training classes that we go through more detail involved in the account admin and project admin. Those quick starts, I'll talk about them at the very end of the presentation, but they're basically almost a full day of BIM 360 training. So obviously we'll go through a lot more than I go through in this presentation. So I'll kind of give you the very quick rundown of how this all works and how you can get up and running with remote collaboration. And I won't dig into all of the details on how to set up different or customize all of the account page or build in different things into this. So first off, once you're signed in, your profile will show up here. You can change your profile settings, but with profile settings, you can give yourself a description, where you're located, all that good stuff. Nothing too special there, just normal account things. On this page, you can see at the top here, we have our IMAGINiT BIM 360 hub. So this for our company is like the main landing page for all of the projects that we're working on. So you might have 10 different projects that are ongoing. And if your company has, or if you have admin access, you can look at all of those different projects. If you just have access to the project admin, you won't be able to get to this point or this page, but you still will have access to those different projects through the hub. So these projects will show up when you click on your dropdown. You just won't have this account admin page access. To navigate through this interface, we've got this grid button here. So depending on what type of privileges you have, you might have different icons show up here. In the account admin page, obviously I have account admin. We do support field management and that insight, like I said, the analytics for different projects or your overall account. You can view through this. I'm just going to focus more on the BIM 360 design and doc side of things, so I'm not going to get into field management stuff. But all of the projects from the project page that our company has created and we have access to are listed here. So you can see that in this project directory, I have a whole bunch of different projects available. We have a whole bunch of different people that do demonstrations and that build these projects. So this is kind of an ongoing thing that we fight with to keep this clean. But once a project is created, so we can add a new project by going through the project directory through admin. We can name the project, we can say what type of project it is, and you can customize and add to this. Most of this just keeps track of the analytics. So if you're trying to do any, what percentage of our business this year or the last 10 years was hospitality, it just gives you the analytical data based on the project types. You can fill in construction type, project value, This one doesn't allow decimals, so if you try to type in a number here, must be a full integer. But again, this tracks the data, the metadata for the project. The big things here that we need to consider, and obviously you can put in project job numbers and things. The start date has to be earlier than today's date. The project end date, it really doesn't matter what you set this to. The project will still be available, even if we say, maybe this project lasts 2 weeks. It's not like it's going to delete or close that project out. What I think it might do is it might take the project from being an active to an inactive project once it falls past that date, but you can really easily go in and make it an active project and change these dates. So you could tie in images to the project, fill out the address, etc. Let me just type in some stuff here. So I'll do a Philly for the project name, project type. We'll just say that this is going to be a retail job. Construction type, new construction. I'm not going to enter a value or a contract. We'll just put today's date as our start. And I don't need to fill in any of this. So once I have just kind of the required things, the ones with the asterisks filled in, we can save and continue. And then this will bring you to the next page. Once it builds this, okay. So it saves that project profile and it creates this profile. Now, this is a really important page here. We have all of our different services. If you're just an architect and you're dealing mostly with design collaboration, you probably won't see, you probably don't have the subscription to all of these different BIM 360 tools here that are showing on my screen. You might just see document management and design collaboration. But what we can do here when we create the project is we want to activate. So first off, we have to activate document management in order to activate design collaboration. Now, what's interesting here is that you can activate the document management without design collaboration, and that will pull from your bank of docs licenses. As soon as you activate design collaboration, that's a separate license. So it's unique to the rest of these services. Whereas with all of these different services, if you are managing a project or if you're managing the account and you're bringing consultants in, you would have to have a pool. Let's say you have 100 people working on the project, 70 are from your company, and maybe 30 of them that you're bringing in are outside consultants. You have to have the licenses, or you have to manage 100 docs licenses. So you can allocate and you can send those off and share them out to your consultants. And that goes the same for all of these services except for design collaboration. Some of you may have heard this term before, but with BIM 360 Design, we consider that a bring your own license tool. So if the architect is working with a structural engineer and you're bringing the structural engineer into the project and you want them to have different access to the BIM 360 design tools and to be able to upload their Revit models and keep them or publish them, then they need to bring their own license to it. Sure, you could add someone. I guess it's based on the contract. As the architect, you could purchase the design license and then allocate it to the structural engineer, but you would have to add them to your subscription site and add them as a user to give them access to that. Otherwise, when they're working in the project, with the document management stuff, if you have those 30 users that you're basically allowing them to use your licenses for document management, we call that a temporary license, meaning that you might have this whole bank of 100 licenses that you're using for all of your different projects, and you might kind of set aside 30 of them to share out with your consultants so they have access to the docs interface. Well, that's a temporary license. So once that project is done, we can take their access from that license away. Whereas with design collaboration, sharing that license out is a little bit of I guess you could always remove it from them, but it takes a few more steps. you're adding them to your subscription management, and it's just a little bit more difficult to manage. And obviously you're paying a larger subscription fee for them to have access to it. So it's pretty typical in the industry that if you are working with engineers on a project, that you agree that they have their own BIM 360 design license, and then you can invite them to the project and activate their design collaboration within the project. So without getting into too much of the weeds on that, once we activate, we can add, let me get back to this. We can add the users. So I'll show you how to create the members. So they have to be included in the member page first, but you can add people to the document management portion. So you can add as many as you want, as long as you have those licenses. This copy project setting is kind of cool. We'll get into the docs part, but you can set up a default project folder structure for all of your projects. And with copy project settings, we can copy that folder structure from a template project, and that will automatically carry that sort of folder structure. And you'll see with my example project, it'll take that folder structure and build it into your document management folder structure. So it's basically just copying a folder structure over, but it's nice because it allows us to have the same organization across different projects that we're starting. So yeah, I should have mentioned, this is to assign someone as a project admin, which is different than assigning them as your account admin. There might only be a few people in your entire company that have account admin access, but you might have a whole bunch of different people, project managers, that you're assigning to or assigning as a project administrator to manage the responsibilities and permissions of the different people that you're inviting to that project. So in this one, let's see, I think we have like a, so Scott Burke's our person that kind of manages all of our BIM 360 offerings. So I can add him to this new project as a project admin. I can save that. And I can add as many project admins as I want through this. And we can always come back to this and add project admins after. But basically what this is doing is it's grabbing that license. Once that's activated, then we can activate design collaboration and add multiple people to this one as well. When you're done with that, you click the finish button. So I've only activated docs here. It's building this project. It's going to add it to the list. Let's see, something is raising me up here. Oh, I clicked activate, but I didn't assign. So let me add myself to this one. I'll save that. And see how I'm trying to do this and it's giving me this error? That person has to be at least set up as a project administrator before they can be set up as a design collaboration admin. So I have to go up here. I should have used Scott for both of these, but you see how this works. It basically piggybacks on top of Docs because Docs is that underlying platform that is required in order to activate the design collaboration side. Cool. So there we go. Now when I click finish, there we go. And there's my project. So 2 members because I assigned myself and Scott to it. 1 company was assigned to that. Now, if I had other admins that I was adding and I pulled different company names from that list, it would add the different companies. So building on that, probably should have shown before this, but through the account admin, we can add different members to our account. These don't have to be people inside your company. So we have a lot of people from IMAGINiT, but you can see we have other people from outside companies added as members. One thing to note here, when you're building the member directory, so adding different users and adding people to the directory, they will not get an email notification until you actually assign them to the project. So this is sort of building that base of users, and once they're assigned to a project, they'll get an email notification, which I actually just got one here for the project that I just created. I'll drag this over. So it's telling me that I was invited to the AIA Philly project. Now, obviously, I assigned myself as a project admin, but when you start to invite members to the project, it might not give them that same project admin access, but it will give them an email notification that they've been invited to the project. And so I'll get back to how to do that in a second. If we're setting up different companies, sort of the same thing, we can add different companies, filling in company name, trade, or company. So if you're working with consultants and GCs and you want to add them to your projects, you just first have to add them to your account admin sort of page so that you can pull them into the different projects. And then based on the member directory, you can assign those individuals when you add them. It will automatically have the company that they're assigned to. So let's see. Since I'm already in here, let me just make up a new one. Jason at Gmail. That's probably someone's real name. Zmail.net. Okay. So I might add that person, set their default company. So we have, if I started to type in, it's one of them, that's IMAGINiT Technologies, and then we can assign them a role as well. So I'll talk about roles and permissions, which they're great, but they're not that critical. So once you save that, it adds the person to this list, and then you can invite them to your projects. Within the roles, because we have all of these different modules that we can assign, we can designate these sort of defaults: architects, BIM managers, civil engineers. You can actually add any custom role that you want. This is going to control the permissions or what those folks have access to once the project is created. So right now with BIM manager, they have project admin access, they have document management access or admin access. So the admin can control the settings within those modules, and they can change and they can give permissions to other people. As a member, you have the ability to use those and to view them, but you can't change some of the management portion. So a lot of times we might customize this out. If the architect is not a project admin, but we want them to have access to project management, document management, maybe the cost management module, and some other things here, we can definitely make them design collaboration. We can set those permissions through here. And then when you go to invite them to a project, you can set their role, like I showed in that last screen, to architect, and it's going to give them access to those different modules. So one last thing on the account admin, if I do go into this project here, and I want to now add a user to this, under project name, I can search based on the members that I added to my list. Pick a user, select them. Company's automatically populated based on the member list. We can set their role right here for the project. So you can see IT doesn't have any of those abilities. Not sure why it defaulted to that. Joe must have his default role set up to IT, but I can assign him then on the project as an architect, and it gives him access to document management and design collaboration. The reason I said that the roles, they're not that important, although it's good to manage them from a high level to have those settings. You can go into any project here. If I say, okay, you know what? I want Joe to be a project admin. We can turn that on right from this page. Even though his role might be architect, we can open up these different modules to Joe, even though the default for architects is just a member. The reason that I'm only seeing Insight, document management, and design collaboration here in this list is because, remember, when I created the project, I only activated the module for documents and for design collaboration. Had I activated cost management, field, glue, they would all show up in this list. So I'm not going to add Joe because he'll get an email, but as soon as you add that person or add those people to the project and click this button, they will get an email notification that they've been invited to the project. Then they can click that link from their email to go to the project, and it will bring them to the project homepage. So at a very high level, without getting into too much about the account admin, I'm already 40 minutes in here. That's kind of the general setup for administration. So adding projects, adding members, adding companies, we can invite those folks, like I said, from outside companies. So before you go to create the project, if you're assigning anyone as an admin to design collaboration or to docs, you need to make sure that they're first created as a member through your account admin. You can add them later on, but in order to activate their license, it's a lot easier if you invite them when the project is created rather than after the fact, because it will start to pull, show analytics here, it will start to pull your different licenses from the bank or the pool of licenses that you have. So for document management, for example, I'm not sure why this isn't giving me the up-to-date one, but it's saying that for all of the members that we have added to all of these different projects that we use for demonstration, we have 123 different users that are using a license of our BIM 360 docs. So under analytics through this admin account, you can view how your licenses are being used. You can see who your activated members are. If there's any unassigned company members, so these are probably just users that were created during demonstration and not assigned to projects. So we kind of have 13 people just floating out there. Keeping track of our internal company. So this is our IMAGINiT BIM 360 hub. So there are individual users that are based off of our subscription account that are assigned as members. So that keeps track of all of our internal people and any external people that we have reached out to or invited to different projects. Okay. This is sort of the analytics part I was talking about when you set up your project, what type of project it is. And then we had the trade types in that project setup. All right, getting into spending a lot of time on the admin here. Let me get into the, where am I at here? Oh, let me get into an individual project now. So from my admin account, if I did invite someone, they would only have the link to go to the project. They wouldn't have this account admin. If I go back to this AIA Philly project, see how it changed up in the top left now to project admin as opposed to account admin. From the project admin page, we get some different options. So design collaboration, document management. Under document management, this is where you go. Think of document management or BIM 360 docs as a very industry-specific sort of Dropbox folder or Dropbox tool where we can have folders set up here and manage the files in a lot of different ways. I just created this one and I did not use a template to create my project folder structure, so these are currently blank. Let me back out to a different project. Oh, this is also good to know. If you search for a certain project, you can just, from your hub dropdown, search the project, go to it, to the project page, and then it opens up. Because I was in document management, it automatically opened up that project in document management. And you can see on the left here, we have kind of a standardized project folder structure that was set up for this project. So plans, which is exactly what you're probably thinking of. This would be all of your release sets. So you really want to limit this to construction documents under plans. And then the project files is where you would store your different Revit project files and any supporting project files like DWGs, outside consultants links that you're using. You never want to have your Revit files set up in the plans folder. It doesn't communicate, it will not work correctly, and you'll have to just start the project over again. So I'll go through that in Revit, but just make sure when you're doing this document setup that when you do set your Revit project file up, you'd never put it in the plans directory. It's not read the same way. It doesn't have the publishing capabilities, so it just breaks it and not good. So, but from there, if you have assigned people as a project admin through Docs, they'll have access to this page. This just has some other stuff in terms of like the behind the scenes of the project. So if someone is a project admin, this is where they can go to add new members to that project and to assign the different permissions. So I know I mentioned that you can have the different roles designated to these different folks, but from a project level, you can come back in here and you can customize what type of access they have. So those roles are great because they give you a basic or a basis of assigning someone to a specific role. But as I mentioned, you can come through and customize. Maybe I don't want Charisse to be a project admin anymore, so I turn that off, but then I can control which different modules she has access to. And by turning these different modules off, then when she clicks on the grid in her project hub, she's not going to see the ones that she does not have access to. Typically as project admin then, they can come into this page and do all of the stuff that I'm doing right now. So normally whoever is the account admin initially sets this up, but when they do assign people as project admin, those admins can customize and configure this, add members to the project as needed. Okay, so back out here, back to document management. All right, so you might be wondering, how do we assign folders to these and how does this work with Revit and the whole BIM 360 design environment? Well, kind of on the surface, before we get into the BIM 360 design stuff, this is managed just like I said, like a Dropbox folder. So if there are certain supporting files that you need, maybe we have project documents, like images, bids, different plans that we want to reference, you can create these folders in here. It's as simple as clicking the ellipsis button at the top, adding subfolder either under plans or project files, and then you can upload different files or linked files directly into these folder structures. So we can upload files, and when you do this, let's say I'm adding meeting minutes to my project. I go to that folder that was already created, upload a file, search a file on my computer, grab it, upload it, and now it's part of this project. So just as a document management tool, we can put everything in one nice cohesive place. But this is a lot more than just like your normal Dropbox type of environment because it ties into the different software that we use to author our projects. So because I've set this up as a project on my hub, from the, whoops, this file's already open. Okay, from your Revit start window here, your kind of welcome page for Revit, if the file's already been created, it's going to show up on the hub, or at least this folder is. So if I had already placed Revit files, let's say under this AIA Philly folder, when I click on that folder, it's going to have the Revit project listed there. Well, you have to do some stuff. It doesn't just automatically create a Revit file for you. You have to kind of set it up the same way that we traditionally would set up a Revit file, but there's a few different buttons that you would click. So I'm going to work in this Food Mart project, but before I get into the actual architectural file, let's say we're just as an example, I'm going to create a new project or a new template from scratch here. So just a blank file. And one thing that you can do, if you don't want it to be connected as a link to your other project files within that project, you can always, once you start doing work on here, if you just want that file to be sort of a standalone without the collaboration tools like we would normally see with the central file to local file exchange, if we're just saving this sort of as its own Revit file, its own document up to the project and not enabling collaboration, you would always save it first. So you can do a save as, but you can save it as a cloud model. Now this is different than activating collaboration and putting it into that design environment. By saving it as a cloud model, so if I just do this right now and choose save as a cloud model, it does allow you to save it to the project folder that you created through BIM 360 docs. So I can find my Philly project here. And again, this is extremely important. Don't ever put your Revit files under plans. Make sure you put them in your project files folder. But I'm going to choose that. I'm going to name this name the file. It's saving the model to the cloud. And once that's finished, I'm going to go back to our web page. So let's make sure, okay, there it goes. So when we click save, all of the changes to this will be saved to the cloud. It's like you're saving it to a Dropbox folder. It's going to show up. Go back to that Philly project. So it should show up right in my main project files folder that I just saved it to. And there it is. Some reason, whenever you save one of these, it always names it version 2. So this has always been like this. I don't know why, but it won't give it version 1. So just a glitch. It doesn't affect anything really. I guess, yeah, it's weird. It's like I uploaded version 1 and version 2 at the same time. It's probably something on the back end, like it's got to write the file and then it overrides it. But that's one way we can upload it. The better way, so we enable it based on or using collaboration so that we can do things like publish the file out and consume it just the normal way. When you go to enable work sharing, like on a normal project, and it's already done because I've saved this one to the cloud. So let me do example 2. So I guess you could initially save that to the cloud, and it does enable the collaboration, and then you can build your work sets and things. But you'd have to publish everything after that. So my recommendation is don't just go save as and then save it to the cloud. It's going to confuse people. Probably will mess some stuff up too because you won't have your work sets and everything generated in there. The better thing to do is just activate this like you normally would through the Collaborate tab. So Collaborate, click on Collaborate. It's going to prompt me to save the file since I haven't saved it. And I don't want to do that, so let me save it locally first. Let's see, call this example 2. And now I'm getting errors. So let me just back out of that. I'll go back to the other project. Essentially, when you click on Collaborate, you'll have 2 options. You can set it up as a central for your local network like you've traditionally done, or there will be a separate option for BIM 360 docs management. So that's the one you want to choose to set it up as a document or docs management central file. And when you do that, just like it showed when I went to save as to the cloud, you'll get access to the different projects that you do have access or project admin access to, and then you can put it into the folder that you want. The one that I already have set up, this Food Mart project, okay. this is just kind of a folder structure that we like to demonstrate and show, and we show this in our quick start training, kind of use the same folder structure because it makes sense. But under project design models, if I expand this out, so we have CAD links, outside models, but we also have architectural team, MEP team, structure team. So when you do save out of Revit, when you enable collaboration, you can pick the folder that you want to save it to. And this is one, maybe that's why I did this one earlier. No, that shouldn't affect anything, but it will show any of the files that you've saved up to this particular project. Now, again, the user has to have project admin access to save it to the folders initially, but once that's set up, then we can start to set different permissions for how people will view and use these files. So one great thing about the way that design works, BIM 360 design works on top of document management, is that for these different folders, the architectural team, the MEP team, the structure team, the ellipsis button next to these allows us to view the permissions that are set up for that folder. Now for us, all of these people are set up as project admins. So as soon as you're set up as a project admin, you have full control over creating folders, assigning access to them. So the permission level is full folder control. If I scroll down here, there's a different area that we can set up specific companies. So we can say that, you know what, for our MEP folder, let's look at the permissions for that one. All right, so for our MEP folder, maybe we want it set up in a way that maybe the project admin has full control over the folder, but for, I guess, our architectural consultants, who would be these IMAGINiT folks, we only want them to have view and download access to that folder. So they won't be able to upload, or they won't be able to overwrite or publish anything to that folder, but they do have access to view, which is extremely important because you want to make sure that they can link these files into their work environment, and they have to have view access to do that. The download is if they wanted to take a snapshot of the model where it's at that point, they can download, or it's almost like a detach from central. They can download the project from that point in the project and then use it as a standalone. So basically by downloading it, it's breaking the link from BIM 360, but then they can share it out if they wanted to. So giving download access is kind of giving them more permission, whereas if they're just set up to view it, they have the ability to link and consume that file, but they can't really do anything else with it. They can't open it, they can't edit it, they can't upload new things to this folder. So it's really important to set those permissions. I probably should have used the architectural team as the example there, because under architectural team, maybe we want all of the people, all of the architects to have full control. Actually, probably not. You'd probably only want certain users to have view, download, and possibly upload privileges. But I'm not showing the MEP here to have access to this folder. But if I did have MEP added to this, so I want to add my MEP installer to this folder, we could click add, find my MEP installers that's set up as a company within this project, and then I can set their permission level. We want them to have view and download access, so we add them. And automatically, because of the people that are assigned to that company, it's going to build that permission in. And actually, this only has John Jones, Thunderwalker at Comcast.net, just a fake person. But they have access now to view and to download anything contained in this architectural team folder. And just another thing here that ties to this, from the project admin page. So again, this is different than account admin. You can be a project admin without being an account admin. From the project admin page, we can control document management, advanced settings, different things here. Design collaboration, this opens up a different page. So ultimately, when we start publishing our files out from Revit, we can assign certain teams to specific folders, and we can automate different tasks like weekly publishing at a certain time. The importance behind this with design collaboration is that we can edit these different teams, go to that folder, so that they have access to these folders like I showed before with the permissions. But what it does is the people that have permissions to write and to upload and download to those folders, when you're working in a project and you're the consultant, maybe you're a structural consultant on a project, if the architect is going and making a lot of changes, let's say they've already made changes past maybe a 50% submittal, and the structural engineer, their deadline is for 50% tomorrow. Well, they're not going to want to see all of these new changes via a live link that the architect is making to the model. So instead, what they want to do is they want to have their own control over when they're seeing those live updates to the model. So it's kind of like an added level, a granular level of how you're going to see your different linked files and if they're updated. So from this project level, up at the top here under project design models, you see how it has this consumed folder, and there's architecture team and structural team. When we go back through the project admin page, design collaboration, those consumed folders are automatically created when we add a team to the project admin. So what you're doing here is when you add the team, you can set up where their default location for newly added items or Revit files is going to go. It defaults to the project files folder, but you would want to change that probably if you're using the file folder structure that I have now. You would want to have a separate folder for that person. So we would have like an AIA Philly folder already set up, and we can pick that. The reason that these other three are not showing up in this list when I assign the default is because they've already been assigned to these different teams. So you cannot have multiple teams assigned to the same folder because there'd be a lot of traffic jams, or there'd be a lot of issues with the way that we upload files to those folders. So what this does in turn is it assigns a specific folder to a team to work on. I'm not going to hit confirm here. If you've already created the folders to represent those teams, so if I already had an AIA Philly folder, I could click here and then just pick that from the list. The other one allows you to create the project folder, but I'll close that out. Automatically by doing that, it generates, back in the project home, whoops, sorry, not project home, project document management. Under document management, it automatically creates, as soon as you create a single team, it creates a shared folder. That shared folder, so this is where people get really confused. This shared folder for the live Revit files that we're working on. So I should probably back up and show you this. Sorry, I'm going to try to take like 10 minutes max on this, and then I'll field the questions. So to open up a file that's already been created in Revit through BIM 360, and it's been published up there and collaboration has started, from the login screen in Revit, you just go to the left here under your hub. So you pick the hub that you're working in. You should probably only have one, unless you're like us and we've worked with a bunch of different companies. We might have different ones listed here, but I'm going to pick my project that I've been assigned to. And only the projects that you have access to will show up here. So you saw on our IMAGINiT page, we had a whole bunch of different projects. Well, only the ones I've created will show up here. Under project files, I'm going to go to design models, architectural team. Now, because I am an admin, a project admin, and I have access to all of the folders, I am seeing MEP and structure. If I was only, if those permissions were only set to view and download, I would only see the folder that I had access to. So you can limit the access of the different users and what they would see from that project level. Under architectural team, I'll open up my Food Mart file here. It's opening it, basically downloading it from the cloud, opening it locally to my machine. Now, the great thing about BIM 360 is that you don't have to worry about the central file, local file relationship. As soon as you open it up, it's automatically creating it or caching it to your local system. So you don't need to worry about ever working in the central file directly and screwing the whole project up. When you do this, it's creating it locally on your computer. And even here, the reason I'm getting this upgrade is because the file link, so it looks like which one is this? The structural file was still in 2019, so it's upgrading it, but it's telling me that it's creating a copy of that locally, and it's going to make that temporary. So as soon as the file's closed, it doesn't keep that upgrade. It's probably doing that for both the structure and the MEP, unless I already missed it. So almost done. So the big thing here, once this opens up, we work on the files just like you would normally work on a project through normal collaboration, even if it's on your local network. So you have work sets, you have work sharing, you have your ownership of different elements that you can free up. You could turn off work sets. You could do everything the same way that you normally would when working with central files. The big difference here is when you go to sync your changes to the central. So I'm working in the architectural model, and hopefully this is almost done. It's a problem with doing these web presentations through the cloud one. Probably should have had the file already upgraded. Let's hope it doesn't go through. All right, cool. So just to show you generally, when you click on objects, you can make them editable depending on how you have your work set set up. This file's set up really poorly. There's only your default work sets, so bad practice there. But just like normally, you can create new work sets, assign things to work sets. The visibility of the work sets is done the same way. There is a big difference though. When we go to save our changes, say we start moving things around and we want to save our changes to the central or to the cloud, just like you normally would, you can choose your sync and modify or sync to central button. When you do this, see how it's saving it to that BIM 360 location, that cloud location. We call this the live model. I can make a whole bunch of changes on the architectural side of things, and it's going to save those to the cloud. So the reason we call that the live model is that as you're working on it and you're making changes, you're basically creating a present version of the model. However, that present version of the model, it is not showing in docs, or is kind of in the background of docs until we publish it. So right now, even though I just synced this one to the central, you can see that the last time it was updated, I think this is the right one. The last time it was updated was back in August. So it's not showing me my current timestamp, even though I just clicked the sync to central. The reason that it's doing that is because we have to tell the system that we want to publish the model. So we want to publish those updates up to this system. And I can do that directly through Revit. So we can say, let me back out here because this is for just the documents. For managed cloud models, there's a little button here. So these are all of my projects that I have access to. Go into this one. If I'm ready to publish all of my changes out to push that up to docs as the latest version, usually doesn't take this long. There we go. We would find that file and we would say publish latest. So see how the last updated time is today's current date? If I click this button to publish the latest, which I might as well do that because I didn't make any changes. So I'm going to publish that out. It tells me right here, you can close this during publishing. This is not a very labor intensive process because it's already done all of the updates. It's basically got all that information updated, but what it's doing is it's updating these pages. And once that's done, let's see, looks like it's done, maybe. We'll refresh this. And still showing the last one, but maybe it's still publishing in the background. But once that's published out to this folder, it's going to update the version number. It's going to update this timestamp, and it's going to update my name there. What this is doing is it's giving you sort of a point in time that you can capture the model. So if your MEP consultant's working on something and they don't want to have the most recent, the live link in because it might mess up their design for their submittal, they can hold off and wait to consume that model until their documents are set up. So all they have to do there is basically go into the model, and there's a different spot that shows this timeline, but they can set up a publish or a frequency, and that's done through that. Let me show this through the project admin. So you might have seen that with the architectural. Under design collaboration, there's a scheduled publish time, so weekly, Monday at 6. So actually, I don't know what's going on with this one because it should, if this is set up to weekly at 6, that should be showing updates. So there must be something else that we've tinkered around with in this that is causing it to not work the way that it should, or maybe because I just haven't consumed that model yet. But back in the project page, or the document management project page, yeah, this is one showing the old version still too, which it's very odd. So yeah, showing in the publish log that I'm still doing some stuff here. Maybe that's why. But it looks like Scott published it out just yesterday. So I don't know why that's not updating. It should be updating. But once it's published out, then your consultants, they can pick and choose when they consume that published model. So it's not just going to automatically update the live link. They have the access through the portal to say when they consume it, and that's a different process. But when they consume the model, then they get the latest published version of that. So some stuff to control sort of the versioning of everything. I wanted to show let's do this quick. Through the design collaboration module, it shows this timeline based on when the project started and when things were published and consumed. So as this loads, you'll see that it basically gives you a whole review or a whole overview of how models were shared out, how they were published. And I don't know why that is still freezing up there. But with that, I know that you probably have some different questions, so I want to make sure that we've got some time here. So I'll let that work, but oops, back out. I'm trying to do this with a PDF. Let me go into PDF set. I can select the PDF, like the schedule page, and I can compare it. Is the button right in here? I can compare it to an older version in the setup. So everything is kept track of. So there's really, you can't really delete things out with BIM 360. Where's that button? I keep clicking on the line item, but